Does your local independent business buy advertising in what marketers call the digital space? Are you thinking about it? Are the experts in your industry advising you to advertise on social media sites like Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter? What about mobile geofencing, YouTube, or the websites of other local media like the TV stations or the newspaper? Should you be advertising in the digital space? The most likely answer is perhaps, but there are some things to think about. First, in trying to get the attention of your consumer prospects, you're competing with giant advertisers with giant budgets. Digital advertising is most commonly bought on a bid basis, and depending on your business category, the big guys can easily outbid you. The second problem is that the digital space is crowded, very crowded, or maybe a better word is cluttered. Think of your own online consumption. How many ads pop up, pop under, or pop over what you really went to the website to see? That overcrowding leads to the third problem. Consumers are so bombarded with digital ads that they do everything they can to avoid them. According to dozens of studies, digital advertising is the most actively avoided form of advertising in all of history. Ad blockers are the most commonly downloaded web applications. So, what should you, a local independent business owner, do about reaching consumers where they are every day? Which is to say, in the car, on their phones, and working on laptops, desktops, and mobile devices. To help answer that question, we asked the Nielsen Company to do a study for us. We wanted to know what happens when you divert just a small portion of a digital advertising budget and invest it in advertising on spoken word radio, specifically news and talk radio. Using data that they collect in the course of measuring media usage in Dallas-Fort Worth on a continuous basis, Nielsen modeled a DFW area digital-only advertising campaign. The mid-sized budget campaign included ads purchased on social media sites like Facebook and Instagram. It included ads purchased through an ad exchange to appear when consumers in targeted areas browsed websites such as those of D Magazine, The Weather Channel, the Dallas Morning News, ABC News, WallStreetJournal.com, and several dozen others. The campaign also included search engine optimization for the top two search engines, Google and Bing. At the end of the 4 weeks, Nielsen's analysis showed that the campaign reached just under 1 of every 4 adults over the age of 25 living in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro. That works out to just over 1 million people reached and just over 3.5 million ad impressions at a cost per thousand of $14. As an aside, it's worth noting that an impression, as defined by the Interactive Advertising Bureau, consists of a consumer viewing 50% of an ad's pixels for 1 second, like this. So, what would happen if you diverted 20% of that digital budget to news and talk radio? Well, according to Nielsen, a lot actually. The first thing that happens is reach increases. Instead of the campaign reaching just a bit more than 1 million people, it reached nearly 1.3 million people, an increase of more than 26%. Total ad impressions increased from 3.6 million to 4.3 million. All of this for no additional cost. But that's not the big story. The big story is that by adding news and talk radio to this digital advertising campaign, reach among high-income adults, those making more than $100,000 a year, really took off. Adding news and talk radio increased high-income reach by more than 41%. Among the highest income category, individuals making more than $500,000 per year, the increased reach topped 72%. Nielsen used 20% in this study only for the purpose of showing just how far an ad dollar goes when it is allocated to purchasing news and talk radio. The actual percentage that you allocate to news and talk radio will depend on the total size of your advertising budget. The fact is, news and talk radio is an outstanding advertising medium, particularly for locally owned, independent businesses. Much more than music radio listeners, news and talk radio listeners have higher time spent listening, are more likely to be loyal to a single station, and are on average more affluent. Plus, while music radio can be consumed in the background, news and talk radio can only be consumed in the foreground.
What you got coming up in news?
That story and more at the top of the hour.
KTBB News Time 5:08.
People realize that's stupid, that it's not a good idea to be enacting this policy.
That foreground listening means that listeners are much more likely to hear your commercial message. Or, stated another way, there are no ad blockers on news and talk radio. For these reasons and more, adding news and talk radio to your digital marketing effort will supercharge the return you get on your investment. The lessons learned in Nielsen's analysis in DFW are directly applicable when scaled to a market the size of Tyler, Longview, Texas. You can add news and talk radio to your digital advertising campaign, enjoy better reach and better results, and do it all without raising your budget by a single dollar. Want to know more? We're ready. Let's talk. And thank you for watching.